Welcome to an episode of Palmer Village's Palmer Voices, a personal story project preserving artifacts and diverse personal accounts of life in the villages of Palmer. Stories of ordinary people are extraordinary. The history, the stories, and the artifacts from each village over the decades are what make Palmer unique. Brought to you by the Palmer Public Library, MPAC TV, and other local organizations. Funded in part by grants from the Leo S. Walsh Foundation and the Palmer Cultural Council, a local agency, supported by the Mass Cultural Council, a state agency. We hope you enjoy this Palmer story.
The Day and Night Diner is car 781. It's a Worcester Lunch Car from Worcester, Massachusetts.
And they brought it here in the 40s. This was the original tag that came with this diner we have right now here on Main Street in Palmer. You can see this is just a whimsical thing, but this is an original matchbook from the 50s.
All the people over the years kept it in perfect shape. All the old woodwork is still in really good shape because they cared about it back then and they manufactured them to last. From the refrigerator in the corner of the diner, it's all hand inlaid into the diner. And the stained glass windows that are in here are still there, and the countertop will last forever because it's marble. The stools are all there, and there's 13 stools here and 5 booths.
And if it could tell stories, it would be really interesting, and in a way it does tell a story. It says, I've been here 70 years. Different owners throughout that time, and different workers, different waitresses, different people, different generations coming through. Even people now will say, oh, I used to come in here with my grandfather.
How did our family come to own the diner? Our father came from Greece, and he came over in the early 1900s.
Right.
And he went to Indiana because he had a cousin there, and they had a diner in Indiana, and that's where he met my mother. And then eventually there was another cousin out in Palmer, and they connected, and he came to own the Day and Night Diner in Palmer on Main Street.
After about a year, they purchased another diner, still calling it the Day and Night Diner, from a place in Worcester, and it was bigger, and that was in 1941. I think people loved it because the diner was very successful for many, many years.
Truck drivers would come, and my father was very kind. Never made a lot of money, however, he used to have the truck drivers come in, and if they had family in the truck outside, he would send out food for them, even though they couldn't pay for it. He would send it out.
And remember, in those days, Day and Night Diner was just what it was. It was open all night long. This was before the turnpike came in. Shortly after that, they didn't have the traffic they used to have.
Yeah, they worked very hard day and night. And oftentimes through the night, they didn't have a lot of people coming in, but they stayed open for anyone who could come.
I think they might have closed the 24-hour bit when we were young, but I don't remember for sure. My older sister, Ellen, used to waitress there. I did, and plus I did dishes. I don't think the younger ones did, though.
But my mother did. My mother worked there many hours. My father did a lot of the cooking.
Right.
And my mother helped out, but my father really had to do the bulk of the cooking. I just think the holidays were difficult because he would cook for us, but then he often had to go to the diner to help out.
We didn't get to see our parents too much during this time because they were too busy serving everybody else in Palmer. It's a nice feeling to know that my father left something. I guess that's how I feel. Pauline?
Yeah, I agree. My father's name it was always spelled like Christ, C-H-R-I-S-T. However, his name was Chris, and I think what happened when he came over, they took instead of Christos, they took the O-S off. He worked very, very, very hard.
As she said, he worked hard, and he had a number of partners. And the first one he had was John Vassos. And then he went on, I think it was Andy Pappas.
Andy Pappas, yep.
And then my husband, Dave Demaio, worked for my father maybe 6 months after we were married, just helping him. And I can still remember him telling me stories about how good my father was. But he was so good, he lost everything. But my father never checked anything. He trusted everybody. That was the picture we have of my father. He was very good to the ones that couldn't afford anything.
And there were 6 of us children, so.
Right. We kind of took care of ourselves.
Yeah, we did.
I do remember there was a dessert they all liked, bread puddings and rice puddings. And those were made right here. Bread and rice pudding were the things my father made.
The roast spring chicken was 75 cents. Roast lamb was 80 cents. Roast pork was 60. Hamburg steak was 45 cents. But they had a lot of sandwiches.
And pies.
That's right, pies.
None of them were baked here at the diner. They were all brought in.
After the diner, my father was able to open up what they called the candy kitchen. And that was across the street from the diner. And they had the delicious chocolates there. And
the candy kitchen had a soda fountain, and then it had maybe 6 little tables and chairs.
Yep.
My mother worked at the soda fountain. In fact, I worked at the soda fountain. Pauline was too young. But we used to watch them make the candies. I don't think the candy kitchen lasted more than 3 or 4 years at the most. And now it's Marlene's beauty parlor, but I believe Marlene sold it. And I don't know if Marlene bought that from my father or not. I really don't know. But it was a cute little place, and people used to come with their baby carriages and stop for Sunday. So it was nice. The last time I was in there was a man that sat at the counter. I still remember his name. His last name was Dupree, and he remembered my sister Pauline. So he was still coming there for breakfast.
Oh, wow.
So I think they had a lot of people that still came back.
1955, when I moved into Palmer, we used to go to the 5-Star Theater. This was open all night. And just come in here, get our pies, then go home, work the farm, you know. But we had all kinds of chocolate cream pie, you know, apple pies. It was all lined up in here. So you come in, you sit here, order it, and they come out and get it for you.
I started here in 1986. I love what I do, and I love the people. The atmosphere is low-key. You can say what you want. We try to, you know, make everyone feel comfortable here, and so they want to come back. They go, oh, it's a friendly place, and we try to you know, laugh it up, make it lighthearted. When you come in here, you can either have all the money in the world, or you can be a homeless person. The guy next to you will still talk to you like you're a human being.
I've been coming here, I'd say, for 40 years. Never go away hungry.
It's all Americana, from the whole gamut from spaghetti and meatballs to one of the better meatloafs around. I think my wife makes it. Soups, homemade soups. We have the best fish and chips you could have. My job is to just not mess it up. The quality and the freshness is right there. My vendors go right to Boston, get it off the docks, and bring it right to me. It's so good. And the breakfast, and even if it's not on the menu, just ask me what you want and I'll make it. Grill master extraordinaire, you know.
The rough history I've heard, you would call Worcester Lunch Car Company and order, and per order they would deliver them to your site. This one just happens to be delivered on a full cellar, which is nice. And they brought it here in the 40s. So they roughly made about 600 of them, the best I know. And they started numbering them 150 or 200 to look established as a company, and went up to 800. This is the rough best history I know. And so this particular Worcester Lunch Car that my husband and I have is car number 781. And from what I understand in recent information I received from somebody who I believe was a diner historian, was that Miss Worcester Diner is number 800, so that would have been the last one made. I know at one point I was able to, several years ago, bring up on the computer over at the library, I think I had seen a diner book over there, and then there was like a grid pattern when you looked under Worcester Lunch Cars, and you were able to see our diner, 1458 North Main Street, day and night diner, car number 781. So if the diner didn't exist anymore, obviously there was no address, and I'm not sure if they gave what number diner that was. But I do know around the area here, Spencer, Florence, Charlton, and I know even in Maine, I think the Brunswick Diner might be a Miss Brunswick Diner in Maine, Brunswick, Maine, might be a Worcester Lunch Car Diner, if I remember right. So there are several Worcester Lunch Car Diners still in operation now. And some photos I have here this is the original one. I'm not sure how well you will see it. It's very faded. It's from the 30s, I want to say. Now, I don't know what company manufactured this diner. And this here is the refurbished of that. So if I held them a little side by side, you might be able to see that the refurbished one, it's a little different than this one. It's a smaller building. So from this, what we do know is the name Day and Night Diner has been around since the 30s. And then this particular diner that I'm in now was brought here in the 40s to replace this older one. So, and I get a lot of comments on the refurbishing job, and it was done by Nancy and John, and their company name is right here. I would pronounce it, but I don't want to mess it up. But anyhow, they were located on Main Street, and they moved to Brusso's Plaza in Palmer, in the corner by Noah's Ark. So Nancy and John do not have it anymore, but I believe their friend Lisa has the company now. So I did kind of want to put that in there because this was a gift from them. And I thought it was very nice of them at the time to update our history of at least the land here. And also the fact that we know the name has been around since the 30s. By refurbishing this, it really kind of helped that out. So I'm going to move next to what this is actually, it's a enlarged photo of this tag. And this was the original tag that came with this diner we have right now here on Main Street in Palmer. And as you can see, it's a lunch cart on wheels, as they used to do in the olden days, I guess on the city streets or whatever, they would bring around lunch carts on wheels. And Worcester Lunch Car Company wanted to replicate that idea by making these lunch cars, manufacturing them, and delivering them per order to whoever would call up and say, I would like one, and tell them the features that I think my husband even mentioned before. Mm-hmm. These particular booths, these type of stools, and in a minute I'll show you part of the stool, because a lot of the flea market people and your historians and or antique dealers say these are difficult stools to find these days, as opposed to the ones that have the wide band and the plush seat, the wider seat with the wide band of chrome. They seem to be easier to find, but these particular stools we have here, they say, are a little harder to find. So anyhow, but back to this, is you probably can't see this too well, but down here it would show you that it's 4 numbers to their telephone, and it was on Quinsigamond Street, I believe. Yeah, Quinsigamond Avenue. That's where the Worcester Lunch Car Factory was that produced these Worcester Lunch Car diners back in the 40s. And from what I understand, Miss Worcester Diner is right near where that factory was today, and they're in operation today, and I hear they do really well. So, and someday maybe my husband and I will get to go visit them. But when you have a diner, it's hard to visit a diner. So, but someday we might. Each Worcester Lunch Car Diner that is still in operation today will look very similar, you know, as this to this one, or to each other, but I'm sure they'll all have their little different characteristics about them. So I haven't really been around again to see many of them, but it would be a really neat thing, you know, to see what their little characteristics are. We have been to Karl's Diner in Oxford, and that's a little different character than ours, and I'm sure each one carries its own flair of ambiance, and people get, you know, how they interact, and, you know, just sit down and socialize and such. And it's really interesting. I'm sure in each community where the diners are, how that community just, you know, they know each other, they grew up with each other, or they're passing through and they get to talk to someone they've never talked to before, and the interaction and social availability is pretty awesome. I like to see that. It's pretty neat. So some of the things, characteristics I like about this diner, some of my favorite things is the stained glass windows. That's my favorite. When we first got it, there were some curtains up, and when I took them down to see what I do next, and I saw the stained glass windows, there's the answer immediately. Keep those stained glass windows exposed. They're leaded stained glass windows, and they are just beautiful. They're very simple, but they're very beautiful. And the refrigerator with the wood line frame in it, and over a cutting board right near the refrigerator that's in front of the Baie Marie right next to my husband's breakfast grill. There's, I want to say it's a hardwood of some type, like a maple or something. And it's very thick. Originally it's probably about, I'd say 3 inches thickness. But there's one part in it, and it's probably roughly around almost 1.5 feet long. All the years of just buttering bread and toast and stuff has made that dip, and that's a natural dip in that wood, to the point where when you ping it from underneath, it sounds very, very thin. So just to think that that hardwood was worn away with all those sandwiches made and toast, etc., is just really cool. It's natural. It's patina at its best. It tells history. It can speak to you if you hear and learn more about, you know, the people that have come through. And of course, there was a time when the Mass Pike was not built. So in the 50s, I think they built the Mass Pike. But prior to that, so you figure this was here in the 40s, and the other little diner building that was here before this Worcester Lunch Car was in the 30s. So roughly from the 30s to the 50s, this was your main thoroughfare for truck drivers, etc., Route 20 coming through Palmer. Right. Then they put the Mass Pike in, so things do change, you know, and things probably changed a little in time, but just to have seen it in its heyday back then before the Mass Pike came through, etc. And I think we always have a tendency to think that, I would have loved to have seen it in its heyday, and the nostalgia, and you just take a glimpse back and we feel like, wouldn't that be great? But I don't think we realize that we are in our heyday now. We're in our heyday now, and we're making history now, part of this historical diner.
I had some home fries, handful of onions, a couple of eggs over hard, and toast I didn't order.
Smell it? Look at that. Yum. Nice. Have a golden. Thank you, everyone. Want to eat toast?
And I told him one time, I says, it'd probably be worthwhile to invest in those oxygen masks that drop from the ceiling like they have in a plane. Yeah, Carl, I'm leaving.
Yeah, but like I said to that, you have to take care of yourself first, like the guy who's running the oxygen mask.
Yeah.
Puts it on first and lets the other ones, you know, kind of perish, and then he revives them.
And I go, a hero?
And then he's a hero.
You have to have this sense of humor to come in here. And a lot of the people, like, they all get along, we all know each other, so we all joke.
I have a lot of fun here, and then I go to work and start my day. But it's a great way to start my day. And there's a lot of tradesmen that come here, and people won't believe the talent that comes in and out of this store. Anywhere from bankers to bricklayers. And it's a great place, and the people are wonderful, especially Cindy. She's not as funny as Carl is, though. Sorry about that, Cindy. I know.
All our food here is homemade. We have it from scratch, and we cut everything by hand, and everything's fresh. Everything is made here at the diner. The portions are all large. You're not going to be starving. If you are still hungry, just ask me. I'll throw more on your plate. A lot of people order the garbage omelet. I find anything possible I can throw into it, and I hear little kids laughing about it. Why do they call it garbage? Because it's everything I can possibly find in there, and they love it. When they leave after eating that, they have to take a nap. It's huge. And the pancakes too, they're large. And the only ones that could eat 3 of those are the little skinny guys, and I don't know how they put them down, but they put them down. Our prices are fair, probably the lowest in town. I've had people laugh at the prices that come from the cities or something like that. You know, if you want to go to the other restaurants that want to charge you twice the amount as I charge, you can, you know, they'll put a little orange twist on your plate. Is that worth it? Or just come to the diner where it's no frills and spills, just normal food. One of the catchphrases we have here when someone's leaving, we always tell them to have a golden day. And I heard it go through the land. I'm out there in the streets and I hear someone say, have a golden, like I say. So that will probably be on my gravestone when I go, have a golden day. See ya, Carl. It's nice to see whoever comes in. Just have fun and enjoy and be my guest.
This has been another recording of Palmer Village's Palmer Voices, brought to you by the Palmer Public Library in collaboration with the Leo S. Walsh Foundation, MPAC TV, Palmer Historical and Cultural Center, Palmer Historical Commission, Palmer Cultural Council, Mass Cultural Council, and Elbow Plantation Historical Society. To become a part of tomorrow's History Today, contact the Palmer Public Library to share your Palmer story. If you know someone whose story should be preserved, we'd love to hear about it. For more information, visit our website at palmerlibrary.org/palmervoices.